Hello everyone, happy Friday. Shabbat Shalom, we made it another week. The second rarest trope, musical symbol, in the entire Torah is in this week's Parsha. It is called a shalshelet, which means a chain, and it sounds like this. Shalshelet. Up and down and up and down and up and down. A connotation of hesitation, of struggle, of fight internally in the word and in the story as implied. The sixth aliyah of this week's parsha. Vayhi achar hadivarim ha'ileh. And it was after these things had passed. What things had passed? Joseph was sold into slavery. He became a slave in Egypt. Then he was raised all the way to the second in command to one of the chief of staffs of the Pharaoh. Vatisa eshet Adonav et eineha el Yosef. And she lifted, the wife of his master, her eyes unto Joseph. Vatomer shichvaimi. And she said to him, lie with me. Have relations with me. The next verse. Vayimain. And he refused. And he refused her. Vayomer el eshet Adonav. And he said to the wife of his master, Joseph was a slave, Hein Adoni lo yadaiti ma babait. It is true that my master does not even give me a thought when I'm in his house, and he does not worry about me, because he has put me in charge of every single penny in his possession. Every single thing he has, he put under my jurisdiction. I'm responsible for it. He trusts me with everything. There is no one greater than me in this house, except for the master, but there's no one greater than me under the master. This palace, actually. Everything that he has, he put in my responsibility, my jurisdiction. Not even a morsel did he refrain from putting under my rule, my jurisdiction. Ki im otach, except for you, ba'asher atishto, inasmuch that you are his wife. Ve'ech e'aseh hara'ah hagdolah hazot, and how can I do this great evil? Ve'chatati le'elohim, and then I will have sinned to God. Now keep in mind, Egypt is not exactly a monotheistic culture. In fact, most of the ancient world was not monotheistic at all. Only this one family, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and now Yosef. Yosef's great-grandfather being the father of monotheism, Abraham, who brought the idea that there's only one God to the world, or, according to Maimonides, rediscovered that idea. And he brings up God here, because in the ancient world, there are many gods. It's not exactly a moral problem to commit adultery. It's more of a practical, legalistic problem in the ancient world. But Joseph here says it's a moral problem to God to sleep with another man's wife. And it goes on. Vayhi ki debra el Yosef yom yom. She would speak to Joseph day in and day out. V'lo shamay leha lishka ve'etzlah diotima. He did not listen to her, to sleep with her, to be with her. Vayhi kayom hazeh. And it was on this day, vayavo abayta lasot melachto. Joseph was going to the house to do his work. Ve'ein ish me'anshe habayit. There was no one there. Sham, babayit, there in the house. Vatitpaseu bevigdo lemor. She grabbed him by his clothes, saying, Shichvayami, lie with me. Vayazo bigdo biyadah. He left his clothes, his tunic, in her hands. Vayanos vayasehut hachutza. He ran away. He went outside. And it was that as she saw that he had left his clothing, his tunic, in her hand, and that he had ran outside, So she called out, she yelled to the people of her household. Vatomer lahem lemor, she said to them, Re'u, see, behold, hevi lanu ish ivri, he is brought for us this Ivri man, this Hebrew, this Jew, letzachek banu, to make games with us. Bailai lishka bimi, he came to me to sleep with me. Va'akra b'kol gadol, and then I called out. Vehi kisham'o ki harimoti koli va'akra. Vayazov bigdo etzli, and it was when I raised my voice he got afraid, and so then he ran away, and he left his tunic in my hand. V'tanach bigdo etzla ad bo adonav el beito. But the very loud kedvarim eila lemor, and then she tells the husband, the master of the house, the master of the palace. He's a high-ranking official in the Pharaoh's court. Bailai ha'eved ha'ivri, again. This Hebrew slave, this Jewish slave came to me, that you brought here to make games with me, she says, she yells at her husband. And when she tells her husband, and when I raised my voice, that's when he ran away from me. And the master listens. He listens to the words of his wife. Asher dibrai lav lemor kadvarim eila asali avdecha vayicharapo. When she says, like such and such things, your servant, Hebrew slave, your Jewish slave did to me, vayicharapo, the master got angry. And at least how I see the pshat, the master was not angry with Joseph. He could actually tell that his wife was maybe lying or not telling exactly the whole truth. But his hands were tied because in the ancient world, in ancient Egyptian world, women also had power. Great power, and his hands were tied. So either he could not believe his wife and it would be embarrassing for him, or he got angry because his wife is causing problems again. He knew that she wanted probably to sleep with him from before. But he does the only thing he can do, which is Vaikach Adonai Yosef Oto, and then it's interesting here because Adonai means plural, his masters, but the verb is a singular. So he took Joseph and he put him in the prison. And in the prison, we know, we'll read later on in the Parsha, that Joseph is, he meets with the Saramashkim, the chief of wine. And by the way, wine has like a 13,000 year history. If you look into it, very interesting. And the chief of baking of the Pharaoh. And then the story continues. But Joseph is thrown into jail now. But the main point of the story is Vayima'ain, that one trope. He refused to sleep with her, even though he knew that it probably would end up bad for him. Because he loves Hashem, he loves his religion, his culture, where he comes from, which is Avram Avinu. He's the great-grandson of Abraham, a monotheist. He knows that there are ethics, that there is right and there is wrong, and it's not just social contract. It's not just social contract theory, that we as human beings get together to decide what we believe should be right and wrong in order that society should be able to work practically. But there's something more there. It's not just social contract theory. It's ethical, moral, Kantian ethics. There's something above the laws of physics that defines morality, and that is Hashem. V'chatati le'Elohim. And that's why Joseph says, and then I will have sinned to God. It's not just we can get away with it, but I will have sinned to God, and I'm not ready to sin to God. Vayima'ain, and he refuses. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you all next week.